turnout. Everyone, welcome to the South Bay Board of Realtors.
We can do that.
So for those of you who don't know the Young Professionals, we are a committee that offers a platform for young professional realtors to exchange knowledge, establish meaningful business relationships, and discuss the latest innovative trends and ideas. So for those of you who may have an interest in the YPN committee, come talk to me after, and you can come to our next meeting, which is the first Tuesday of March, which is March 1st. So I want to thank the sponsors, because without them, none of this would be possible. And I'd like to invite them up here. Megan, Daniel, Cyrus, Dana, come on up to the front. Who am I missing? Andy's outside. Thanks for the food, Andy. Always wonderful.
Want to give a quick blurb?
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. For those who that don't know me, my name's Andy Santinello. I own Andy's Termite and Pest Control. I've been providing realtors with termite reports and certifications for 46 years. I've been doing it as Andy's Termite for 37 years. I've learned a lot about your industry along the way, and I'm often used as a resource of information. So if you ever have a complicated termite report you're having difficulty reading, or a complicated transaction regarding a termite report, never hesitate to call me and ask me questions. I can usually help you. And if you have your own termite guy you're happy with, it's not a problem. I've never decided if I'm going to help somebody based on whether or not I'm your company of choice. I think we are a good choice for both sides of the transactions, especially now that the purchase contract has changed. And I wanted to share a little about what changes I'm seeing happen in both of our industries as a result. It's been a little over a year since termite was removed from the purchase contract, so we're now being used about half the time sort of like a home inspector being called out by the buyer. And I'm doing a lot of inspections, I ask a lot of questions, and what I'm hearing is that a lot of listing agents are choosing to have a termite inspection done as soon as they list the property. They're being proactive. They're letting their sellers know that even though it's not in the purchase contract, that buyers are still expecting sellers to pay for Section 1 items, even though it's not in the contract. It's just done differently now with a request for repairs. Some are doing a wait-and-see approach, hoping maybe they get a rookie selling agent that isn't going to call out a termite company, but chances are if there's no termite done, the buyer's going to call their own guy. I'm also told by a lot of listing agents, some of which I've known for 25 years, but are now just seeing them on inspections, asking them why they're calling me now. And they're telling me that they're being much more careful about who they choose. Because even though representing a seller, and in the old days, they used to try to find the cheapest company out there, they're now being careful and trying to choose somebody that the buyer side is likely to accept. Because the last thing a realtor wants to have to deal with is two conflicting reports. Because if the selling agent or the buyer doesn't like the company that they chose, doesn't know the company they chose, or they have the same last name as the seller, then it's likely the buyer's going to get their own termite guy and you're going to have conflicting reports. And they're going to put, the buyer's going to put their own company of choice on the request for repairs anyway. So I'm seeing where we've become very popular all of a sudden. We're not the cheapest guy out there, but we're thorough and we do a good job, and that's why I think we're good for both sides of the transaction. One last note, it's changing my industry. Because before, being seller-friendly was very popular if you did real estate work. And for me, it was very hard to compete with seller-friendly companies because we choose to not be seller or buyer-friendly. But what I'm realizing right now is that just like any good company, when things change, we have to change. And before, I had 3 customers. I had property managers and landlords. I had homeowners that were not selling their house but were worried about it, and I had sellers. And now I have a brand new customer called a buyer. And buyers want something different than sellers do. Sellers want to know how much, and they're hoping it's not going to be that much. Buyers want information. We're state regulated. Where we look, what we look for, what we put on reports is regulated by the state of California. It's not a choice. And we did inspections for sellers. It wasn't a choice. We had to put it down. But now that we're doing inspections for buyers, buyers want to know if that's a big deal. How important is that? How serious is it? And for the first time, our opinion matters. Before we express the opinion of the state of California now, my inspectors who are very experienced, we have an opinion. And I am now retraining my inspectors to be very forthcoming with information to buyers, to not just tell them what they found, but how serious is it? How important is it? So that way buyers can make better choices and make better decisions as to whether or not they're going to rock the boat on that transaction and expect the seller to pay for it. If it's not a big deal, they might choose not to do that. And they're using that information from us to help them make those choices. And I'm very happy about that because I think our opinion has always been good, but it's never mattered. And now I think for the first time it really does matter, and we're retraining to be much more like a home inspector, where we're there to give as much information about that house to the buyers as we possibly can. So anyway, thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed breakfast.
Thank you, Andy.
All right, by a show of hands, how many of you guys like insurance? That's what I thought. All right, cool. How many of you read your insurance policies? Anybody? Okay. How many of you just don't have enough time to deal with it? Okay, I think every hand should be up. So we're really excited this year to be one of your partners, and basically we do all lines of insurance. I'm representing ISU, the Olson Duncan Agency. We're right up in PV and Torrance, so we're really excited, and this is kind of a new thing for us, but we've been servicing South Bay for a long time, and through ISU we have access to over 300 insurance companies, so our motto is kind of one responsible source. That's the ISU motto, and that basically is one responsible source for all your insurance needs. You have one, you have one real estate agent, hopefully. You have one CPA. You have one lawyer. You shouldn't have more than one insurance agent. So we want to be that option for you guys, and so we're excited. And thanks a lot. If you have any questions, I basically do all the homeowners, all the tenant forms, and yeah, we just love to have the opportunity to help you guys out. Take a look at your files, your clients' files. We see a lot of issues with people's insurance, so that's what we're here for, to help you. Our first, our first priority is basically make sure it's done right, the contract's right, the type of form is right for what kind of purchase the client's having, and then next we basically try and save money however we can by shopping it. So that's what we've been doing for a long time, and hopefully we'll get to work with you guys and make it happen. So thanks a lot.
Hi everyone, I'm Megan, and I work with American Capital Corporation. We are located in El Segundo, and we've been one of the largest privately owned banks in Southern California for 24 years. So we underwrite for 18 different investors in-house. We have our own processing team, underwriting team, fund everything, but then we also are a mortgage brokering company. So between the mortgage banking and the mortgage brokering, we have a lot of niche programs, which you can see I passed out, so all of you guys can review our loan programs. So yeah, we do lots of different niche programs, lots of different options, and if you guys know Tim Greeny, he's one of the owners, and I'm his daughter, and I'm working on his loan team. So thanks so much, and let me know how we can assist you guys.
All right, good morning. It's always good to be here. I get to see a lot of famous and familiar faces. Up here in the audience, it's great. So my name is Teles. I run a team of private mortgage bankers for Wells Fargo Private Mortgage Banking. We're a little bit different than our retail partners. What we specialize in is your high net worth clients with maybe some complex situations, and specifically people that need more than just a mortgage. Maybe somebody needs to know, gosh, I'm selling my house, I've got a pretty large capital event happening, I need to know what to do with that money. So we have access to trust officers, financial advisors, legal department. So we're a little bit different. We kind of provide a more holistic kind of answer to your mortgage rather than just giving you a mortgage. We're backed by the Wealth Management Group at Wells Fargo, and I think everybody's heard about Wells Fargo. So I have a team of 10 private mortgage bankers. My information is on the flyers. I would encourage you guys to give me a call, and I'll make sure that I connect you with somebody on my team to make sure they take care of your clients and take care of you. Or if you have any questions, just give me a call. We're here for you. Thank you.
Hi, welcome. Hi, I'm Dana Thompson, and I'm a real estate photographer, but I also wanted to share with you a couple of the other pieces of the marketing that I add in to kind of help the process along. What we're finding right now is that the sellers are very discerning, and they want a full, comprehensive marketing plan. Part of that is having good photos, and then on top of that, we're also doing property sites and flyer design. And my recent experience with a few agents has been, this is so nice, I don't have to think of this piece of it. I can just get it up and running, get it on the MLS, and then all of these other pieces are there. And the sellers are really happy because with the property sites, they feel like every effort is really being made to market that property. When they're talking to 5 or 6 realtors to try and choose who they're going to sell the home with, they really want to see that you're doing that. And another piece of this is that with photography, you can go on site, on my website, onto the booking thing, and while you're sitting there with the seller, letting the ink dry on your documents, you can book your photography online. You can tell them your photographer is going to be here. There's a list of things that they need to do to prepare for the photography session. And also there's been the recent change from now 35 images up to 75 images that we can host on the MLS. And I've never had a limit of, we don't always want to see 75, but sometimes you don't want to have that cap. I just recently did one at Trump. It was an estate property. We ended up with 82 photos just because it's that type of property. But I want you to know that you're never limited. I'm not going to say, okay, there's your 20 images. Have a nice day. I'll come in. Last week I was vacuuming carpets. I really put forth, I have a real estate brain. I've been in the industry for 20 years. So a lot of what I do is helping you set everything up. You know, it's like the layup, and then you guys get to do the rest. If you can't afford a photographer to start out, if you've got a brand new listing and you're in a pickle, at least call me and get the tips for how to best photograph the property. Lately, I've seen cell phone photos where toilet seats are up or there's alcohol on the counter. And what we really want to do is we really want to prepare and make the home photo ready. So, and part of that is what I do. So reach out to me if you have any questions. Everything is very comprehensive, and I have lots of samples and referrals, and you can talk to your colleagues and find out who's been using me and the type of results that they're getting. So I appreciate you guys coming by this morning and listening to me. And now I'm going to give it back to Chrissy.
Thank you. Thank you, Dana. Just a quick reminder, the raffle tickets today, all of the proceeds for those tickets goes towards Habitat for Humanity. So in October, we will have a build. I don't know what that date is yet, but yeah, so it's not like it's going back to the association. Also, the end of March, March 31st, we have our next event. We think it's on tips with taxes and write-offs for realtors. We have to still secure a location, but get on our Facebook page because that's where we post everything for our next events. And all right, I think we're ready to go. Let's start with the panelists. John, can we start with you?
John Briscoe, Remax Estate Properties, 37 years in the business.
And John, I'm sorry. What did you do before real estate?
I think I was in high school. No, it was a little bit of college, a little bit of baseball.
Perfect.
I'm Stephanie Younger with Teles Properties in Playa del Rey, and Teles Properties is in the South Bay now. We have, 15 agents in the South Bay, so we're very excited about that. And I've been in the business for 14 years. And my market is Westchester, Playa del Rey, and Playa Vista primarily. And before I was in real estate, I was a special event planner in the pharmaceutical industry.
Cool.
My name is this on? Oh. My name is Gary Kooba. I'm with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. I've been in the business about the same amount of time as JB. He's a good buddy of mine. And before real estate, I was in kindergarten.
Can you hear me? My name is Maggie Ding. I'm with Remax Estate Properties, too. I have been in the business maybe 12 years at this point, and before real estate, I was a consultant for Anderson Consulting, which is now Accenture. So.
Okay, let's start with Stephanie. Describe your areas of focus and your niche market, whether it's location or types of services.
Sure. So I call myself a geographic farmer, and I live in Westchester, and I technically grew up in El Segundo, but my dad was born and raised in Westchester, and so my husband and I moved there after we graduated from college. We met at LMU, so we're very homegrown, and when I first got in the business, there was a very prominent agent in my marketplace who was also a geographic farmer. So I really looked at that model and decided that that would be a great model for me. And I'm pretty outgoing and I like to socialize, and so I knew that I could establish a social network there. And so I built the structure of a geographic farm. So I'd say about 90% of the business that I do is in Westchester, Playa del Rey, and Playa Vista primarily. And so my niche is really the geography.
Mr. Briscoe? Yep. What's the question? Please describe your areas of focus and niche market, whether it's location or types of services.
I too am a geographical farmer. Been doing that for a long time, primarily in West Torrance, but these days you can't really pigeonhole one little area. You got to be out there and do quite a few. I actually put out 20,000 newsletters a month, and an additional 2,000 are mailed out to absentee owners. So my focus is not just West Torrance, but my focus is definitely geographical farming. And I started there because I grew up there as well. I was familiar with it. And unlike Stephanie, I didn't like the person that was farming there, so I took everything that that person was doing and did my own twist.
Cool. Gary?
I would say that part of my focus, because it's diverse and it acclimates to what the market's going to yield, but in this last run that we've had since the recession, I've been very, very fortunate to work with investors who are in search of distressed assets. And so, when the REOs were prevalent, then we would go in and pick those. When that started to diminish, we saw the fruits of ground-up construction. And it grows from there, because as other boys that have a lot of dough see, they come to the party asking to come in, and then I get a chance to say yes or no. But I think that the underlying theme is integrity, and keeping in mind all the time being of service, and putting their needs in front of your own. I think that's really key. So I struggled with it sometimes. Sometimes it flows really well, but that's what I've done.
Maggie?
My niche is probably more people related. It's not geographic. I can't tell if it's on. Same thing as you, right? Okay. It's more people. So I don't do geographic. I used to live in West LA. I've moved down to Hermosa over the years, and now I live in PV. And so I kind of know a lot of the areas, and it's all people-based. So all my business is referral-based, and it's people-driven versus geographic-driven.
Maggie, I'll ask you the next question. How did you choose the market that is now your niche market?
It might have chose me, actually. I'm not from here. I'm from Texas originally, so I didn't have like an LMU background or grew up here. And so for me, it was a little bit like, okay, this is where I live. Who am I going to, you show up at the office the first day and you have no idea what you're supposed to do. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's just try everything. So sphere of influences, right? So I started doing some of that, started selling my friends' homes. They started referring me business. And I just started going, wait a minute, I really enjoy this. I enjoy my job because I love the people I'm working with. And so when I started seeing that that is what made me love what I do, I decided to keep going with that. So that.
Awesome. All right, Gary, you can be next.
Thank you.
How did you choose the market that is now your niche market, or did it choose you?
I think that I've chosen to adapt and acclimate depending on what the market is going to yield and how it's evolving. So I think that that's the key for what I have done and am doing. If I go to a barren vineyard, it's not going to bear any fruit, then what good does it do? So I look at what is working, and then it's underscored by the relationship with folks like you. I have a circle of agents that I know very well, and we reciprocate and we help each other. So this is not a me deal, it's a we deal. But as Briscoe will tell you, there's no secret. You have to work hard. And if you think that this is the ticket to a fancy car and fancy clothes with a modest work lifestyle, you're out. So I think that's important that we recognize that.
Good to know. Stephanie, how did you choose the market that is now your niche market, or did it choose you?
No, I came into the business with a pretty specific desire to succeed. And when I got my license and joined Kooba Banker, and at the time they had a coaching program. And so I met a real estate coach very early in my career, and I can't say enough good things about the power of coaching. So whomever your coach is, I would encourage you to listen to that person. Because we all need somebody sort of outside of us to be objective about what we're doing. And trust me, I think when you have someone objective looking at what you're doing a lot less than you could be doing. And so one of the things that I heard really, really early on was that this was a 30-year business, and that it would take 10 years to build your business, and 10 years to grow your business, and then 10 years to enjoy your business. So I'm in my second 10 years, so I'm really excited. Last year I sold 155 houses, so I'm going to say it's working. Thank you. And thank you. Oh, thank you. So the niche was really based on a desire to have, I wanted a business that would be successful in an up market or a down market. And so I figured if I grew a strong enough base, then my business would be market proof. And then when the market crashed, I was even more determined to make sure that would be the case. And so I think geographic farming is a very important part of that, because I don't need to be switching my plan based on what the market is doing, because whether the market's up or down, people have to sell their houses, and if they know you in your marketplace, then they will call you.
Excellent. John, how did you choose the market that is now your niche, or did it choose you?
I chose it intentionally. It's where I grew up. So I'm from a family of 10 kids and spread out over 25 years. So, everyone's got a story. The ones that followed me to school had a rougher time. But I chose it because of my familiarity. I grew up there. And I wanted to put my own twist on it. And that's pretty much it. I chose it with intention and wanted to do it my way.
Cool. Gary, back to you. What type of due diligence did you do before acquiring this specialty market?
I failed a whole bunch of times, and I tried different things, and I stuck with certain things. I too have a farm, which I stick with. I think that's a cornerstone, but I saw the need to implement other ways to work within the market. And so that's why my model is diverse. That's why if you took a pie, it has different size slices in that. But I think Steph makes a great point. Farming is awesome, and I've done it for a long, long time. But I saw the need, because I don't think I do it the way Steph or JB does it, is that I had to be diversified. And I've loved it. I enjoy it. It's fun. It's hard work. It's stressful. But, it's working out okay.
Perfect. John, what type of due diligence did you do before acquiring this specialty market?
One, I wanted to know how many homes there were, how many absentee owners there were, and then what the cost would be. You have to project 6 months to a year because you have to be patient when you farm. I mentored a few people, I still mentor quite a few people at RE/MAX. The people that start out, I just told them to project at least 2 years out because it's not going to be instantaneous. There is no instant gratification in farming. You have to create a budget. You know, you've got absentee owners, you got stamps, you got envelopes. If you're doing that, you got to write something. I write my own newsletter every month. I think that's what separates me from the people that just glean from other sources. Comes from my heart, and they know that I'm there. I got the pulse of the market, and pretty much you got to know everything that goes on in that area, and that's about it.
Nice. Stephanie, what type of due diligence did you do before acquiring this specialty market?
You know, I think the biggest thing that I paid attention was to what, you know, what other successful people were doing. And I don't know that there's a lot of wisdom to needing to reinvent the wheel all the time. I think you look at the wheel and then put your own twist on it, like John says. But I didn't feel a need to be a trailblazer necessarily. I felt a need to do what other successful people were doing, but then just do more. I always say it in my office, more, better, right? So do a little bit more than what everyone else can do and do it better than what everyone else can do. So I looked at what other people were doing, and I tried to take the pieces from each of the people that I respected in the business, try to take the pieces of what they were doing that I thought was successful and put together a plan that worked for me. And luckily the market that I wanted to be in was a market that has a pretty good velocity. So, you know, you need a market that's going to turn over, and you need to be able to have a substantial number of homes in order to support your geographic farm. And, you know, in terms of money, I agree with John, like you have to hopefully have some reserves if you're going to embark on a geographic farm, because it's not an overnight plan. But if you can approach your business with some layering, where you're working your sphere of influence or working the various other aspects of your life to get business while you're waiting for your farm to produce results, that's great, because I can promise you that you'll never be able to afford that assistant or afford that marketing plan, right, in your mind. The money will never be there, so sometimes you just have to, like, take the plunge and you know, be a little bit of a risk taker. This is a bit of a business that supports that kind of mentality. So,
excellent. Maggie, what type of due diligence did you do before acquiring this specialty market?
I would agree with Gary by failing. I got in the business, I sort of looked at everything, what everyone was doing, and kind of went, okay, well, let's try a little bit of everything and see what fits right for me. And for me, I failed, or not necessarily failed, I just didn't like, for me, I looked a little more inward. I looked at what I wanted my business to look like, what I wanted my life to look like, and what would make me happy. And by me being and going to the core of who I am and doing my business based on the core of who I am, I was able to then take that and say, okay, well, if this is what makes me happy, how do I use that and implement it into a business plan? And so, you know, I tried everything. I mean, I did open houses, I did door knocking, I did everything. And then I came down and I realized what makes me happy is working with the people, the right people. And by figuring that out, because I did a lot of different coaches, I figured out which was the right coach for me. And I do now have a coach. I've had the coach for the last 4 years. And I'd agree with Stephanie, listen to them, because my coach pushes me to things that I'm like, you are crazy, lady. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And then a year later, I'm like, oh, okay. So I really think that's nice to have somebody looking on the outside in at your business and helping you grow it.
Awesome. I was going to ask Maggie again. Sorry, Gary. Knowing what you know now, would you start over again in this area of focus?
Yes, I love what I do. I love what I do. I love the people I work with, and absolutely. And would I like to start it earlier? Maybe, but I also think I wouldn't appreciate what I have today if I didn't fail.
Awesome. Gary?
Yes.
Knowing what you know now, would you start over again in this area of focus?
I would be in real estate, and I think everything happens for a reason that's out of my control. So it happened, and what happens is because it's supposed to. So I don't even look back except to say, keep working hard, one day at a time. And I feel very, very fortunate that it's inherent within me to be driven. And I can testify for these two. The work ethic is critical. I'm sure Maggie works hard too, but I don't know where I know these two. So I think that, when you look within and you're authentic, and you will see organic growth, and you will be drawn to what works for you. I remember the President of the United States years ago said, I don't like broccoli. I'm not going to eat it, and I'm the President of the United States. And I took that and I said, I don't like cold calling, and we were supposed to do all this cold calling. I chose out. I don't do cold calling. I don't like it, and that's just the truth. But I think for all of us that are gathered here in this forum today, I think that I hope you take from this is that everybody has their own style. And you can't replicate what JB does or what Steph does or what Maggie does or what I do. You got to do what works for you, and it's an authentic sensation that'll come. Say, what, I really like this. It doesn't mean you're not going to work hard and lots of hours and stuff like that. But when you immerse yourself into something that you're passionate about, it works. And so I think that's what I would encourage you all to look at. And, we have a very high attrition rate in this industry, and I see it all the time. And I go to different offices and stuff looking for deals. And I see people that are struggling. I see people that have left. And I see people that are, some fresh faces coming in. It's not that easy. You're not just going to fall out of bed and make a bunch of money. You got to earn it. And so I think that's why it's critical to look within yourself and be open to that message that'll come through. Maybe it's farming like Steph and JB do. Maybe it's cold calling. Maybe it's open houses. Maybe whatever it is. But I think you have to be authentic and real with yourself, and then let it come. That seems to have worked out okay.
Good job. John.
Whatever Gary just said. I forgot the question.
Knowing what you know now, would you start over again in this area of focus?
Yes, I would. I would have started earlier, like Maggie alluded to, and like Gary alluded to. You don't look back and say, woulda, shoulda, coulda, but you do look back and see the mistakes you made and make sure you don't make those mistakes again.
Nice. Stephanie.
Right. I think that we should all learn from, what we've gone through and be able to apply those lessons so that going forward you can continue to grow. So I think that I really like my business. What I've done most of the last, say, 10 years of my business is grow a team. And so I really like what my business is and where it's going. And I think if I knew then what I know now, there's three things I think I would do a little differently. And one is that I would have from day one, it was probably like year 3 or 4 before I really got it in my brain that I needed to prospect 2 to 4 hours a day, every day. So if I knew then what I know now, I'd be prospecting from day 1, 2 to 4 hours a day, and that's in whatever way you want to do it. I did it through door knocking. And the other thing is that I would have learned to think bigger from the beginning. I think I, felt like I needed to be very modest at the beginning and not really sort of wave my flag the right way, and I would have thought much bigger from the beginning. That took me too long to figure out. And then I would have started growing my team sooner. It started out very small, and it was small for a number of years. And then, I really grew my team in the last 3 years, and it's been an incredible experience. If you're not kind of getting the traction that you want to be getting in the business, then thinking about getting onto a productive team and surrounding yourself with other productive people is one of the best things you could do for yourself.
Excellent advice. I'll ask you the next question. How has your specialty developed over the years? Was this the same area of focus that you began with?
Right. Yes. So I had a plan to be dominant in a geographic area, and I wrote a business plan from the beginning, and at the beginning it was very simple, but I've always had a business plan every year, and my plan was just to, sell more houses. Well, it's more detailed than this, of course, but, unlike Gary, I really wanted to control the outcome all the time, so I had a very detailed business plan every year, and so my business has grown and developed, but fundamentally the mission remains the same, which is to have the market share in the markets that I want to service, and to have a wonderful raving fans in our client base. So it's grown and developed over the years, but it's fundamentally the same.
Nice. Gary, are you going to retaliate? How has your specialty market developed over the years? Was it the same area of focus that you began
I got to
with?
ask you a question first. Since JB and I are here, and this is Young Professionals Network,
Hit me.
does that mean we're young too?
Yes.
Okay, coolio. I used to have a full head of hair when I started, so. So what's the question?
How has your specialty developed over the years? Was this the same area of focus that you began with?
No, and I think that the shift is that I had a crystallization is that, I was thinking about me instead of them. And when that shift occurred and the prospective clients that I have and that is growing, they recognize that I'm all in for them. And anything they need, I'm willing to do. It's not about me or my fees or all this other nonsense. It's about their needs being met, and the rest of it takes care of itself. That's been my experience. So I feel that when I keep that in my focus, it just flows. And so, I've met some clients along the way and been referred to some horses that are substantial, but they came to me because they were attracted to what I was doing. It wasn't because I was going out and promoting. But I think that there's different facets to this. Steph's really good at what she does. Hard to argue with $1.50 of residential sales in the calendar year. And JB is really good at what he does. I've watched him. We've been friends forever. I think that there's always a different way to approach it, and you have to remember that. There's no set template that you're going to follow 1, 2, 3 that works for the guy in Iowa versus that works for the guy in SoCal. You have to look at it that way. And so, we got a guy at Berkshire Hathaway in Omaha that did 675 sales last year. That's insane. But the houses cost $120. That's not even a down payment on the deals I work on. So, it's different. And I'm not here to judge anybody else. I got my hands full with myself. And so I just look in the mirror and say, okay, am I doing what I should be doing, which is taking care of my cherished clients and respecting and working in concert with my colleagues? The relationship with real estate agents is critical. And so whether you're in a transaction with someone or you're going to Brokers Opens and you see somebody, extending and talking to each other, I think is critical. But I will tell you, I met some folks at an open house, and we ended up putting a deal together. Well, they were also clients of Steph's from Westchester. And so this gal brought Steph to look at the house that they were purchasing, which was my listing. And the first thing Stephanie said to me is, I am not here to take your business. I'm here because I am her friend as well. And I think that's so professional. I think that speaks volumes about people like her and what she means to the industry. It's not selfish. It's not self-serving. It's that she was being of service to this wonderful gal who we both think very highly of. So I think that sets a standard. So, you know, if you're thinking of getting into deceit and sneakiness and stuff like that, get the F out.
Good point.
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
Good point. Thanks.
I forgot the question.
That's okay. How has your specialty developed over the years? Was this the same area of focus that you began with?
So I think my story might be a little different, and I don't know. So I started in, well, I don't know. I started before I had kids, and then I have a husband who travels full time. So you're looking at me trying to get the business started, and then having babies and a husband who's not around. And so for me, it was a lot of going, okay, look, how do I want to run this business, and how do I want to have the best life possible for me, as well as taking care of my clients. And so my business developed gradually, focused on the people, because that's kind of how it developed. Once I had babies, I met people with babies, and through my friendships, people trusted me, and that's how I sort of that developed. I always talk about karma, like when I talk to my clients. My job is to, and Gary, you touched on this, is just to take care of people. Like, my view is, if I take care of you, you will take care of me. And by taking care of you and doing a good job for you, you will then in turn hopefully tell your friends about me. And that's all I'm looking for, is take care of you and you can spread the word. And then even with other agents, I always say karma too. Treat people the way you want to be treated. You know, I write tons of offers that don't get accepted, and that's okay, you know, but I like to let the other guy know we really appreciate it. And like, I want to be updated, and I try to do the same for other people. So we just, in our office, we just live by karma. Like, just take care of people, and life will come back to you. So,
Great advice. John, how has your specialty developed over the years? Was this the same area of focus that you began with?
No, it's definitely expanded over the years. Farming only represents about 40% of what I gross. The rest of it is, just touching on what Gary said and what Maggie said, it's really, this business is a series of relationships. That's really all it is at the end, and it's how you treat people, and it will come back to you. But if you hope you have good families, and if you do have good families, treat them like you are family. But that's really what this business is, just a series of relationships and how you treat these people, because it'll come back to you tenfold. They're not going to remember what you said, they'll remember what you did for them.
Good point. John, again, what was the biggest obstacle you had in establishing this niche market, and how did you overcome them?
One, you had to be patient. The niche market being farming, again, going back to that. That there was no, like I said, instant gratification before. You had to be very, very patient. And I'm not a very patient person, so that's really what it was for me, just patience.
Awesome. Stephanie.
Well, I think the biggest obstacle was really what everybody else is trying to tell you. And when you're, especially I think geographic farmers, people want to tell you that this other agent owns the market and you'll never be able to do what you want to do, and that's absolutely not true. There's enough business out there for all of us. And you're going to make it the business that comes to you. It's not necessarily there already. So, I really set about building my geographic farm by making new business for myself, not by taking business away from somebody else. And the more business I built for myself, the more business came to me. So I think the biggest obstacle is, when you see someone who has a bigger market share than you, and feeling like you can never compete with that, or you can never compete with that machine, or you can never compete with that investment that person can make. You just have to start slow and gain momentum over time. It will take time, but you can do it. And now my obstacle, of course, is keeping my market share and growing my market share. So, now that I've reached the status of being the person who has the market share in the area that I work in, now I want to grow it, because I want to make sure that I'm at the top of my game for another 10 years minimum.
Gary, what was the biggest obstacle you had in establishing this niche market, and how did you overcome them?
I think my biggest problem is me. And you know, am I going to be open to a transformation where I recognize the principles that I alluded to before? And there's always going to be somebody that does more and somebody does less. It's welcome to life. So that's irrelevant to me. What's important to me is that I recognize when I fall short and when I start getting thinking about myself rather than those that I'm of service to. And so I catch myself more frequently now, whereas before I was in denial and just blindly going along and stumbling and bumbling, and I still stumble and bumble, but it's not as frequent, and there's more of a flow. And so, you know, whatever facet of the market that you focus on, and whether it's singular or it's diverse, I think those principles are key. And like JB was talking about, is that the relationship with your colleagues, and then the relationship with the people that you haven't even met yet that are going to come to you, they got to be getting the 5-star concierge service. So, you know, and life is different. Life changes. I mean, when my son played baseball, I was his manager for 10 years in a row. And that was a priority for me. I never missed my daughter's dance and ballet and jazz. I had no idea what I was watching, but I was there. and I was present. But my kids are adults now, so, you know, my wife gave me the green light and said, you know, don't come home without a paycheck. So, you know, because of this stage of my life where I'm at, I'm able to devote a lot of time, and I'm embracing it, and I love it. And I get to work with people like this. I mean, I get to. I don't have to. I get to. And when it's time to ramp up for an open house, I get to do open house. That's the mindset. It's not that I got to go to open house today and that something is on television or whatever. I think that when you have that shift and that crystallization, and it's in your mind that I get to go do whatever that activity is that's work-related, the whole dynamics changes, and people sense it. And so that's how you become someone who that the prospective client is attracted to.
Excellent. Maggie, Gary, what was the biggest obstacle you had in establishing your niche market, and how did you overcome them?
I would say getting pregnant was my biggest obstacle. I had 2 kids 19 months apart. They're still 7 and 9, so just trying to balance the kids and trying to build a business. It's probably one of the hardest things, and overcoming is really getting a coach. Getting a coach who's not just looking at my business plan and saying, how do you build it and how do you how do you take off, but really saying, how do we make a better you? How do we make a better family for you? How do we make a better life balance for you? Because the better you, the better mom you're going to be, the better wife you're going to be, and the better agent you're going to be for your clients. And so really getting a coach that kind of just looks at my life and looks at where I want to be and how do I grow that, being authentic to who I am. So.
John, what marketing tactics did you use and or continue to use to build your niche?
Well, again, I write my own newsletter. I have community events in my newsletter. I get everybody involved. But I've really expanded because all you young people out there, the millennials, I had one girl on my team just 2 weeks ago. I sat down with her, and she told me what millennials, this is what they look like, this is what they're expecting. My eyes rolled in the back of my head. I said, I'm doing this all wrong. But it's also a market that I want to reach. So I've had to change. I've had to expand, not only doing the I'm going to mention his name because Maggie's probably going to smile, but I do a lot of the Brian Buffini stuff. So I do write notes every single day. I wrote 5 before I came over here. Horrible at doing calls. My assistant makes me do my calls. I refuse to do pop-bys because never mind. I just refuse to do pop-bys. But I do all the other things that are there. So I've definitely had to be much more diverse, and I continue to be diverse. I think it's changing. The business is changing constantly, and you got to roll with it. You just can't stick with one thing.
Stephanie, what marketing tactics did you use and or continue to use to build your niche?
Well, I built my business on the back of door knocking and social networking. Not social media, but literally just tapping into the people that I knew. I had like a stupid number of people at my wedding, and so the first mailer I sent was to everybody that got invited to my wedding. So that was a long time ago. And then I knocked on doors, and I knocked on doors pregnant. That's an obstacle. Go try it. But it actually is very good for business. So go get pregnant, and then go knock on doors. And knocking on doors was a very cost-effective way for me to talk to people. If you really do the math, most of us need to talk to somewhere between 20 and 40 people per day in order to do the kind of business that you want to do, right? And so in order to talk to 20 to 40 people a day, really it's either you have to be a master cold caller or you got to knock on a lot of doors. So knocking on doors was a cost-effective way for me to do that. And, I'd show up with my notepad and myself and, my authenticity. And, the ancillary benefit of door knocking was that it's great exercise, and, you get up close and personal with every house in your farm. So, I can close my eyes and kind of tell you what houses are what, going up and down almost every street in my farm because I've knocked on them so many times. So that's really been the foundation of my business. Now I have my team knocking on doors, so I don't get to go out as much anymore. But my team knocks on doors, and so I have a group of people out there in the marketplace every single day knocking on doors. And then, I've layered marketing into that, and that's grown and grown and grown over time as I could afford it. But, I have everything from the proverbial bus bench to, a regular ad in the Argonaut, which is the local paper for my area. And, I do a regular mailing to my farm. So I spend a lot of money on mail, and I do Facebook and particularly boosting ads around my new listings on Facebook. And so I have what I'll call sort of a layered marketing strategy. And I do it all, but I do it all very intentionally.
Nice. Gary, what marketing tactics did you use and or continue to use to build this niche?
I think that when I was more hands-on with farming, I wrote my own newsletter like JB alluded to. I gave out pumpkins to every single house on my farm, which is about 1,000 houses. And remember that's a very small slice of my biz, but it's also foundational because you're getting your name out there. And there's probably 57,000 real estate agents that farm where I farm, and that's okay. Everybody has their style and the different stuff like that. But, when they see my signs out there or me sleeping on Stephanie's bus bench, next to JB, that there is an indirect familiarity, if you will, and it grows and it takes time. So I think, to the point that you got to be patient, you do. And I've noticed that in my business that, as I plant seeds, it takes a while for them to germinate and grow. And whatever tactic that you use, you have to be consistent. When I was consistently farming and face-to-face with not knock and drop, but talking to everybody like Steph was talking about, it's very powerful. The problem is I don't have the time to do that, and so it becomes diluted. So you have to be repetitive and do volume like JB's doing. So these guys are very wise in the way they're approaching it. They're doing a bang-up job. I have made that a very small part of my business model, but it was my face-to-face, as Stephanie alluded to, consistency every month, and then a trademark, if you will, the Pumpkin Man. Every October 1st, they were getting a pumpkin. And it's expensive. So you have to be prepared to spend the dough. It's
I
a lot of
knocked
dough.
on those doors. They were looking for a pumpkin.
Yeah.
I didn't have one.
They got it. I think that you have to be prepared to embrace this. And that it's a long-term deal. It's not a one-night stand. It's a long-term deal. And the fruits are wonderful, but it doesn't mean you get to slack off. I think you see a common thread here with these two, and probably Maggie too, is that they work hard. I think they probably work smarter than they used to. But don't kid yourself. This is not something that is going to be halfway or part-time, because you're going to be someone else that works full-time or does it in a way that they're there when the duty calls. That's why you have to be fully prepared to embrace this. So I hope that answers your question.
Perfect. Thank you, Gary. Can you pass the mic to Maggie?
Let go, Gary.
Work hard sometimes.
Sure. Maggie, what marketing tactics did you use and/or continue to use to build your niche?
So I am Brian Buffini. That's who I use. That's my coaching. It's very much notes, pop buys, client parties. I find it's really hard for me to do pop buys with the amount of business I do. So I do a lot of reverse pop buys, which is I have client parties and they'll be at my house or they'll be at something. And I find this to be really successful and really fun because they get together, and most of the time, since they refer each other to me, they're coming to hang out with their friends anyways. And a lot of times I've been, like I had a party recently where somebody said, oh my gosh, I can't believe you sold him a home. I mean, I work with him. And I'm like, oh, well, we wouldn't have known that. And so with that relationship, all of a sudden it's like, well, I sold 3 other people at his job house too. Oh my gosh. And so now everybody in the office knows who the realtor is. So just the client parties to me are really successful and really fun. They're exhausting, but they're really fun. So,
Maggie, I'll ask you the next question. What turning point made you realize the fruits of your labor in building your niche market?
So for me, I had the babies, and I knew I wanted to focus on them. And then once they got to an age where I knew, like, okay, they're in school and a little bit more, like, self-sufficient, that's when I got my coach. And so I don't know if I'm answering this question correctly, but that's when I sort of went, okay, I've always been someone, I wasn't going to quit my job and go into real estate and stink at it. I mean, I was going to succeed. And I had an intention of getting into it, knowing what I'm doing, make some money, get good at it, and then build it when the kids are old enough. And so a lot of people sometimes say, like, where did you come from for me? And I'll be like, well, I've been around. I just wasn't as intentional until I had the kids at an age that I thought I could kind of take off with it. I got Brian Buffini coaching, and I just started being a lot more intentional with what I was doing. I don't know if that answers your question, though.
Yeah, it does, because that's when you realized,
Yeah.
you know, things started to kick off and you developed your market. That's awesome. Stephanie, what turning point made you realize the fruits of your labor in building your niche market?
Let's see. Several years ago, I made this goal to sell 50 homes, and I'd been like in the 25 to 35, and I was never a dollar, like a income goal person. I just wanted to sell a certain number of houses because I figured if I sold a certain number of houses, I'd make the money I wanted to make. So I set this goal to sell 50 homes, and I missed it 3 straight years. And on the 3rd year, in October, when I realized I wasn't going to hit it again, I can still remember the breakdown, in a puddle on the floor. But the next year, I didn't sell 50, I sold 70. And that's when you go, okay, you see, this is a cumulative, it's a watershed moment, right? You drip and drip and drip and drip and drip, and then the breakthrough happens. And, it's just been, nonstop ever since. But it took 3 years of laying that foundation of doing what you needed to do to sell 50 houses in order to get through that barrier. And, if you think about what you have to do in order to sell a certain number of houses, the bigger the goal, the larger the shift in what you'll do. And, to sell 50 houses is it takes a big commitment. And, I didn't have a huge team trying to do that. So, but if you set a big goal for yourself, you'll take the necessary action to do that, and it will you'll have to do a major change in what you're doing to reach that goal. So that was kind of the big turning point for me.
Nice. John?
Well, no turning point per se, but my first week in real estate, I listed a property in South Torrance. To give you guys a frame of reference, it was $92,000. A guy came by on his bike, bought the house from me. This is my first week. I didn't even know how to write a contract. In fact, I had the instructional book back when there was a one-page contract. And then subsequently sold those sellers a house in TV. All in the first week. Got my checks. So my turning point was those checks quickly disappeared in Las Vegas. That's just my nature. And I realized then that you only give us your last check. Do something different. So that was my turning point. That just not that easy.
Gary, what turning point made you realize the fruits of your labor in building your niche market?
I think it's when my mindset shifted, and I mentioned this before, when it shifted to the needs of the client instead of myself, and I stopped focusing on, how much was this and how much is that, because that's self-serving. I think that I was focused on, probably a derivation of what Steph was saying, is that I began to go door to door and do open house and really start to enjoy it. And I think that was probably 15, 16 years ago. And that's when things really started to click. And I was having fun. It was not drudgery. And I think prior to that, it was like, ugh. So I think that's what created the shift for me.
Nice. Maggie, what type of networking do you do in developing your market?
Because I'm people-based, it's all around who I know and building that relationship stronger. So, so for me, going to school, I actually don't like to do a ton of business like with my neighbor per se, but going to school and just being active, and I don't know if everybody even knows I'm a realtor at school, but just consistently showing who I am as a person and my integrity, and then over time someone probably says, oh, I bought a house from her, and they're like, oh my gosh, all three of you guys did. Oh, wait a minute. And so it just, for me, just keeping everyone's a potential client, having fun, holding integrity, and people knowing that I work hard and kind of who I am, and they want that in their life, and they want me as an advocate. It's really organic for me.
That's great. John?
Yes.
What type of networking do you do in developing your market?
Well, I run a networking group. Several of you on this panel actually are on this group, in my group. So I created it about 4 years ago because obviously the dynamic of low inventory and pent-up demand, it was hard for me I went from being a listing agent, about 90% of my business was, now it's almost 50-50. That dynamic has definitely changed. I don't like it, but so I run a networking group and we I think we've hashed out over 400 transactions, 400 deals in over 4 years of off-market properties. So that's one thing we bring to my clients. I just say, look, this is the value I bring to you. It's something a little bit different. I sold 9 properties last year off-market. So that's what's a little bit that's changed.
Nice. Stephanie, what type of networking do you do in developing your market?
Well, my business, even though I was farming all those years, my business for a long time was, a big percentage of it was from my sphere of influence. So, I think that to Gary's point, I'm going to assume that we're all coming from the place of, in order to be successful in this business, you have to do the right thing and you have to be authentic, because people can smell that a mile away, right? And therefore, if you do the right thing and you're authentic, then when you're with the people they will want to do business with you. And so I really got very good at being able to talk about business with the people I know and to ask people for business. And so, I think that the kind of networking that I do is really around the idea that I'm always doing things. I'm social. I'm always out with people. If I'm at the grocery store or if I'm at a party, it doesn't matter. But I'm always prospecting. So, I do try to keep that in the forefront of my mind. And, you have to kind of check your behavior all the time and make sure that you're doing the right thing out in the world so that people, if they want to do business with you, they feel that they can trust you to do that. So my networking is really about always prospecting with the people that I know wherever I am.
Nice. Gary, what type of networking do you do in developing your market?
I talk to a particular sphere or a domain of repeat clients all the time. And if there's nothing going on, I talk to them. If there's something going on, I talk to them. The commitment to communication is absolutely critical. I think it could be analogous to being a consistent farmer as these two birds are, but I think that staying in touch with these guys who I do a lot of repeat business with, and they really like that, they need it, and they, almost demand it because of what we're doing. It's critical. And so I think that's the way that I do it.
Nice. I'll ask you the next question. How has the competition within your area of focus changed over the years?
I think that when something becomes, how would I call it, popular or more conspicuous, then a lot of amateurs will jump on and try to get on that ship. And whether that's overpaying for an asset or overbidding for a development site, or they're not familiar with the process, then there's a organic attrition, if you will, where they're going to cave in escrow or they're going to lose money. And so that, naturally will eliminate that portion of the market. So I see that, one of my signs, and I don't mean to be offensive, but if I see real estate agents trying to get in on something, I go the other way. Because I think that it's a sign to me that there's too many people fishing in that pond. And I do like JB, I do a lot of off-market deals. I get a lot of off-market deals, and it's not brand specific. It's people from several different companies that call me and say, look, I got a deal. I don't have the horsepower or the wherewithal like you do. I want to get this deal done. Let's go. And I just did one with someone from another company. And that's the way I work.
Cool. Pass the mic.
Whatever you say.
Maggie, how has the competition within your area of focus changed over the years?
You know what? I actually don't really look at competition. I honestly, like Stephanie was saying, I really do believe there's enough business for all of us. And so I don't look at it as in like, oh my gosh, I'm going after the same business. And I'm normally not going after the same business as one of you guys are. I view you guys as like allies. We have to work together. So I hate to say it, I don't watch the news very regularly. I don't watch the bad stuff. I kind of just focus on the good stuff in life and go, everyone's a partner for me and everyone can help me in life. And just kind of do good all the time and just kind of know that, put the good stuff out there and it'll come back to you.
Nice. John, or actually Stephanie, since you have the mic. How has the competition within your area of focus changed over the years?
Well, I think that, the difference for me now is, now I have to be my own competition. So, I'm driven, and so I don't necessarily need someone else's thumb in my back to push me forward. But I think the competition that I put on myself is about staying really, really good and staying really, really current. And, I think that the biggest mistake any of us can make is to take the foot off the gas pedal and kind of come in and out of your business. So my pressure is all about putting that pressure on myself. And I do believe there's enough business for everybody. I'm sure there's a lot of people who would like to, do what it is that I'm doing. So they can absolutely do it, but I have my foot all the way down on the accelerator at all times. So, and that's just the way I am. And I like it that way because it keeps me looking for, better ways to do what I do and better ways to help our clients and better ways to grow our business.
Nice. John? How has the competition within your area of focus changed over the years?
There's a lot more of them out there, a lot more people finding the same area I found, which is okay. I appreciate competition. I see a lot of duplicating of some of the marketing material I put out, which is fine for me, invitations of sincere form of flattery, right? But to me, I just find it very dull and unoriginal, to be honest with you. But the competition is out there. I welcome the competition, and like Stephanie, it does make you work harder. You got to stay on top of your game. Just don't take this business for granted.
I'll ask you the next question. When a deal goes south or you're dealing with difficult clients, what is your favorite stress reliever?
Cold beer. Good red wine. Baseball game, take a bike ride. Usually to a place where there's cold beer, good red wine, and a baseball game.
Perfect. Stephanie?
Right. I was going to say gin and tonic, but all right. The best stress reliever for a deal going south is to go sell another house. Honestly. And you cannot, I'd like to think I can control the outcome, but really we can't. All we can do is give the best advice we can to our clients to make sure that your compass is north, you're doing the right thing all the time, and then you have to let it be what it is. And if you have another deal in the pipeline at all times, then you can unattach from the outcome of that particular deal closing, and you can do the right thing. And what I love to be in the position, I'm very grateful to be in this position, and I think it's a great thing to aspire to, is that I never want to be so attached to the money coming in from a specific deal, because I think it makes people do things that they shouldn't do. And when you can say that to a client, they know that you will only do what's in their best interest. When you can really honestly say, I don't need this deal to feed my family, they know that you will do what's in their best interest. And so, not to say that I don't stress about deals going south, but I just, always be prospecting. That's the best way.
Nice. Maggie?
I have the mic. I say to my clients all the time, I don't need to sell you a house to pay my bills. So all I care about is taking care of you. And you can buy a house today or 5 years from now. I really don't, doesn't matter. It's going to, I'm okay with anything you want to do. I'll run as fast or slow as you want to go. In terms of how do I deal with the stress, I find when deals go south, rather than it's all about your attitude, I think. I take it as a learning experience. If a deal doesn't go south, I'm not learning anything. If you have only good deals, you're never learning. And I'm a better agent today, and I can handle obstacles before they happen today because I've gone through deals going south. And so anytime I have a deal go south or there's an issue, I view it as an opportunity to learn.
Gary?
I have a couple of methods when something's going south, is that I recognize that I'm not the general manager of the universe, even though I've tried to be. And so I turn it over and I pray on it. I will vent to a brother, whether it's my broker, Bruce, or my manager, Rick, or one of my bros in the industry. And then I look at the situation and say, this is a problem of abundance. This is not solving cancer or poverty. It's a real estate transaction. So stop it. And recently I had a situation where my listing gal comes and open house. I love the house. I love you. You're my agent. And I said, well, great, then sign here. And she goes, well, I can't. My hand's broken. So, I don't know, I spent 4 or 5 hours with her over a weekend. And then I get a text that says, my ex-husband says I need someone to represent me since you're so close with the seller. And so, okay, then that's fine. And I called my seller and said, look, I got your back, bro. My role here is to represent you and look after your interests. And yeah, of course I'm pissed off, but move on. And we put the deal together. So, and I've established a deeper relationship with the agent who was brought in, who's from out of the area, but a really cool gal, and it's all good.
Nice. So this is our final question, and then we'll open the floor for any questions from you guys. Stephanie, do you have any tips or advice for anyone looking to develop a niche market of their own?
So, probably I've said a lot of this already, but I think, number one is you need to decide where you want to do that. I think it's very helpful to, like John, to live in, if you're going to be a geographic farmer, okay, I'll address that, to live in the area that you want to geo-farm, because you'll naturally do a lot of the things that you do that helps develop that, like go to the local grocery store and go to the local dry cleaner and go to the local events. So I think that's a really helpful thing. But I think the most important thing about picking your niche is to decide and then stick to it and know that it can take many years to really see the mega fruits of your labors, But if you're doing it right, you'll see results soon, but the big results might not come for some time. And then, I find it very helpful to write your plan down and decide what it is you want to accomplish and how you're going to do that, and to stick to that plan and put the plan up, big and bold so that you can see it every single day. And if you're going to engage in marketing activities, take the time to write down, this is what I'm going to do every week or every month, and get that plan worked out and get that content developed and just let it roll. Don't overthink it.
John, tips and advice for anyone looking to develop a niche market?
I think just do what feels comfortable to you. I mean, everything in this business works. There's cold callers that make a ton of money, door knockers that make a ton of money. I door knock 3 days of the week at the age of 60. You go figure it out. Open houses, there's people I know that's all their business they did. I think our number one girl in Redondo Beach, that was her niche, I think. And she was the realtor of her office. And she just did open houses. So it all works. You do have to have a plan. I do a lot. I've been managing the last 18 years, so I go up to some people and I look at them and say, what does your day look like? Tell me what your day looks like. And I understand why they're in the position they are in, because they can't even explain what they do. The Feeny says, 2 hours a day? And I want to give some kudos to Maggie, as being her former manager. Now I'm in Torrance. To be in the top 100 of our company is saying a lot, because there's almost 900 people. We cover some really high areas. We cover Manhattan Beach, Marina Del Rey, Beverly Hills, Santa Monica, the entire peninsula, Riviera. And I remember seeing Maggie down at the bottom about 4 or 5 years ago. And I saw a meteoric rise from being at that bottom, and I want to congratulate her to being the top 10 of our company, which is just amazing. That's somebody who had a plan, and stuck to it. She said she tried all these other things and felt what was comfortable to her, the social thing. And the series of relationships goes back, and it just comes back tenfold. Really, create advocates out there for you. That's what you got to do. So if you go to a good restaurant, you like it a lot, right? And what's the first thing you do? You go tell somebody about it. Create advocates. Make sure that those people are talking about you the way they should be talking about you. If not, teach them how to talk about you.
Nice. Gary, any tips and advice for anyone looking to develop a niche market?
I think the first thing that I would suggest is you get quiet within and get real still. Tracy and I were talking about this yesterday, is that you got to clear all the busyness and all the clutter from within, and then just be open to what is going to resonate for you. So what does that mean in layman's terms? It means that don't overanalyze, take a step back, and then take a good look and an overview of the market. As JB said very aptly, is that it all works. It's just you got to have the committedness. You've got to be willing to work it like a dog in heat. If you ask Briscoe and his partner Woodrow, they're in at 6 in the morning, and they work till 8 or 9 at night, and they do really well, but, you know, they're not putting their feet up on the desk and saying, well, I'll wait for the phone to ring. It doesn't work that way. So all of it works as long as you work it. And I would be very thoughtful about it. And whatever culture you're working in, you know, seek the advice of those who have gone before you and feel it out. But the answers will come.
Maggie, do you have any tips or advice for anyone looking to develop a niche market?
I'm pretty much repeating what they all say. Look within. What do you want? What do you want in life? What do you want with your family? What do you want? And then look at that and see what's going to make you happy and build your business around that. Because if you're happy, everything else comes with it. And if your intentions are there, everything else comes with it. So,
Awesome. Thank you, panelists. And now thank you. Now we're opening the floor for questions. Thank you, Nikki.
Lawrence James, Keller Williams. Thank you guys for all coming out today and sharing your experiences. I just have a general question, and John started to touch upon it, I guess. Can you just run through what your average day looks like? When do you wake up? When do you start lead generating? When do you go to bed? Do you shut your phone off? Etc.
Usually in bed by 9:15. Wow. Up fairly early. Stare at a series of exercise machines on the way to my breakfast table. I read 2 newspapers, walk the dog, kiss the wife before I go to work. I'm there before everybody else. No one's been out working in my office. They try sometimes to get in early. I'm still there earlier than them. And then I get together with my team. I have 2 full-time buyer's agents, and then I have one person on payroll, 2 people on payroll, my son. He's the accountant told me to get my raise last week. So,
Where did he learn that from?
Yeah. We have a game plan. I know what the weekend was like. What we're working on. We spend at least an hour every day. I mentor a few people, too, during the day. I do my 5 notes, which I've already done. I try to get my 5 calls done before the end of the day. Go into my sphere of influence, go to my database, because that's your business right there is your database, and how good you are with your database, how well you sort your database, another Buffini commercial. But that's pretty much what I do. We sit down and we plan the rest of our day, and I do sometimes write up to 25 notes a day. I do make my calls at the end of the day as well. If you're not prospecting, you know what, like I said, what does your day look like? It only takes a few hours to do this.
Well, I have 2 children and a family, and so I'm juggling all the time. I'm sure Maggie can relate. And so I wish I could say that every single day was exactly the same. But, you know, I exercise 2 mornings a week, and then the other 3 mornings it's just a bit of a crazy show in the morning trying to get everybody out the door. You know, I'd like to think that I wake up early and meditate, but it's not happening. So, you know, and I have to listen to my news while I get ready in the morning. While I'm getting ready in the morning, I'm listening to either the news or a podcast. Our company does these daily educational podcasts. I'm part of a coaching group, so I'm on the phone every day from 8 to 8:30 with that group. So I've always got something that I'm listening to in the morning to help keep my mind focused on, you know, on my business, on what I can do to get better. So that's what I would be doing in the mornings. And I'm in my office every day by either 8:30 or 9:30, depending on the day. My job in our company right now is to go on 200 listing appointments this year. So the first 2 hours of every day, I'm trying to set an appointment. And, you know, I average about 6 appointments a week, and my appointments are long. So, you know, some days I'll go on 2, and that'll take up, you know, like 4 hours of my day plus travel time. So, you know, really my day is about 1 to 2 hours of trying to set an appointment and 2 to 4 hours of going on appointments. And then the rest of my time I'm working to develop my team.
Gary.
Let's see, my day. I'm not a team guy, it's just me. And that's just my own thing. I think these guys are awesome for what they're building. But I get up very early and I pray. I go work out 6 days a week. I'm in the office early and I will call or receive calls or work on stuff till midday. And then I go out and look at the projects and see, what's going on with that so that I can have my arms around, the various things that we're working on. I break for dinner with my wife at around 5 o'clock, eat real quick, and then I'm back to the office or I'm out on appointments. And I usually call it a day around 10 o'clock at night.
More like Stephanie, my day is a little bit different just depending if the husband's in town or out of town. Usually get up, get the day going, making sure that the tasks for the week are ready to go or the tasks for the days are done and everyone knows what they're supposed to be doing is how I start it. Get the kids to school, get them back, work until I have to pick the kids up from school, working probably at pickup too a little bit, checking stuff, making sure nothing's going down, and then putting the kids to bed and then working again. So I probably go to sleep around 12 to 1 o'clock, and then I'll wake myself back up around 6, depending on the day, or if I'm tired, I'll 7:30 to get the kids ready for school.
Awesome. Kevin?
My name's Kevin DeSilva. I also work with Keller Williams. My question is actually specifically with Stephanie. I did a transaction with your team over the summer. I never spoke with you. And there is throughout the transaction, I think I worked with 4 different people, and it was excellent customer service from an agent standpoint. But my question is, obviously you've delegated each particular task off to other people. How do you prepare for delegating that? I mean, obviously, you don't just say, okay, this is your role, and go ahead and take it. So, what was it that, obviously you assigned the task, what did you have to do on your side to make sure that that task got performed at your level?
So delegating in real estate is the hardest thing you'll do. One of the things part of the reason I'm building a team is very selfish, I have to say. I am very committed to trying to have dinner with my family every night. And so if I don't have a listing appointment, I'm home at 6 o'clock. And my goal for this year is to try to pick the kids up from school 2 days a week myself. So, this makes my day very short. So, and I do take a day off every week, and I'm on a personal, maybe a silent mission, but I'm on a personal mission to try and get real estate agents to work more bankers hours because, escrow closes at 6 o'clock, and the mortgage lenders go home at 6 o'clock, and I don't know why we don't go home at 6 o'clock. So, one of the things I've found is that, the more email you send, the more email you get. So, learning to delegate was something that I did because I had to, because I had these other priorities in my life. But it is very, very hard to do. But what I've done is my system looks like, over time I just kept separating the roles, right? So our system is very much like a transactional assembly line, but with really good customer service. So if you go to outside of California, pretty much outside of the greater Los Angeles area, where people have to sell lots and lots of homes in order to make a living, you see that this can be done, right? You see that people can sell 300 or 600 homes a year. And my goal was just to do that with really good customer service. So I do have a bigger staff than probably I should, but the trade-off for me is having quality of life. And so if I'm going to have all those people, then I need to support that with a lot of business. And the key is really training, is taking the time to educate people and taking the time to look at what people do strategically. So like I said earlier, a lot of my day is spent in developing people, I have several meetings throughout the week where, between staff meetings and listing review meetings and a marketing review meeting and, the buyer's agent team meeting. So throughout the week, we have a lot of opportunities to review what we do. I try to spend a lot of time doing what I call post-mortems, right? Like looking at the deal and saying what we did right and what we didn't do right. And I give a lot of feedback. And I say to my team all the time, I'm a noticer, right? So don't let me go out on a Sunday and notice something wrong without you having called me first to say, just so you know, this isn't happening the way you want it to happen. So I notice and I give feedback. And so the key to delegating is training, and then being willing to not know everything at the moment it's happening, and then being willing to look at the product and give feedback. And in order to do that, you're going to have to be okay with the fact that things will go wrong. But I can tell you that I have not lost any business from delegating, and I think it's an important thing for people to know. Nobody doesn't hire me because they don't think my finger isn't going to be in the pie all the time. It's a thing that people use to criticize me when they're competing against me, right? But nobody doesn't hire me because of that. And for all the transactions that we do, we have, very, very, very happy clients. So does that answer your question? Okay.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Jan Chatmani with the Real Estate Group. This can be for each and every one of them. How do you handle buyer's offer and multiple offers to get it through?
How do you handle buyers and
Buyer's offer, when I'm presenting offer and the multiple offers.
got it, multiple offers with your buyer?
Kind of confused about your question, how to handle your offer if there's multiple offers?
When you're presenting and they have the multiple offers.
Okay, so I'm representing the seller and there's 5 offers on my table?
You're representing the buyer.
I'm representing the buyer. I'm one of 5 offers on Gary's table. I say, hey, Gary.
That's the power of the realtor role.
That's the power of networking. Well, it is true. The reputation's out there. Some people know they're going to get the job done, and if they know you're going to get the job done, you may necessarily not be the best offer on the table. I remember last year I was up against, I represented a buyer in a property in West Torrance, and there were 3 offers on the property. One was, both of them were higher than mine. And mine was all cash, the other one was all cash. And I didn't know the agent well enough, but he remembered me from a transaction we had 10 years previous, and he convinced his sellers to go with me, and we closed it in 21 days. So your reputation has something to do with it, but if you're in a multiple offer situation, you call people up, put your best foot forward. I've seen some of Maggie's presentations with telling all about her clients, what her reputation is. Here's the vendor's phone number. Here's the steps I've already taken prior to me even writing an offer. Here's the due diligence I took, and that goes a long way.
Anyone have?
Let me see if I understand your question. You're asking if you represent a buyer and there are other buyers and everybody's making a play at one asset. Is that right? I call the listing agent and feel them out as to how they're going to play it. What is their criteria? What are their expectations? Do I have a relationship with them or not? All that plays a critical part. I will demonstrate the ability to perform, whether it's by reputation, track record, or as JB said, here's the lender, here's this, here's that. And so in the arena that I usually play in, my guys are all cash with no contingencies and short escrows, so we kind of float to the top of the coffee cup. But that's how we play. But in a conventional situation, I think that demonstrating your clients and your ability to perform and delineating how it's all going to go and make it real simple for the listing agent, and they're going to see that you will have the ability to perform as will your buyer. I think that's the critical part. And yes, if JB calls me, stuff happens. So,
Stephanie or Maggie, do you have any advice?
I can talk a little bit. I don't have all cash buyers. My buyers tend to be first-time buyers, young couples, and so I have the challenge of having to get someone to accept my offer over everybody else's. And I put a package together that is so clean that when you get a bunch of offers, you're going to see some messy ones, and then you're going to see mine. And even if you don't know me, you're going to go, whoa, if that's how it's coming in now, then how easy is this deal? Because honestly, the other side doesn't want to work, right? I know the listing agent doesn't want to work. So this is what I'm saying. Look, if you sell it to me, you won't do anything. I've got it handled. It will close. My clients aren't fly-by-the-seat people. I know them. I can navigate them through this. So work with me because I'll make your life easy. And it's typically...
Yeah. Can you just go into a little bit more detail about the offer and how it is a clean offer?
Well, writing it, spelling everything correctly, putting the spots, like putting your deposit in the right spot. Like, I mean, I've seen some offers where I'm like, have you even read this before, and can you read and write? I will call people and say I speak English. I can actually use email, and I know how to use DocuSign, and I don't fax, and I can make your life really easy. It's just make sure the offer's written right there, making sure everything's put together. I won't send something off if it doesn't have proof of funds, pre-approval letter, and the offer there, as well as picture letter from my clients, as well as a picture letter from me. And the offer is written so you can accept it. It's not written where you're going to counter me on, oh my God, I can't believe you put the check in the wrong spot. It is for you to accept, and you're going to look at it and you're going to know I know what I'm doing.
And
I want to clarify another perspective of that. I think that, if I'm the listing agent and a clean offer means the brevity of the due diligence is critical. And so to encapsulate a financing contingency, an appraisal contingency, a physical inspection period, and minimize it, that's going to benefit the seller. So are they willing to do that or not? So, I look at that as a listing agent as a clean offer with those factors addressed.
I'll just say that as a listing agent, we're always astonished when people send offers and they've never called our office to ask what might help this offer get accepted, or to see what the seller is looking for. And 99% of the time, this is a seller market right now, and it's been that way for a long time. And so what the seller is looking for needs to control the negotiation, at least at first. And if you're not calling that office to say, what's it going to take to win this deal? What are you looking for? And how can we best work together? I think that that's a mistake. And it does happen. I think we would all agree that that's a good practice. But people just send offers over with no question. We don't know who they are. And so we appreciate that kind of outreach and that kind of knowledge of who the buyer is. And for most of these, basic residential sales, the sellers do care who buys their house. So a letter is so helpful.
Who's got the mic?
Oh, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Cecilia Peters from Engel and Volkers Realty. This is for Stephanie and John. I do have a geographical farm, and I want to be the #1 agent in that farm. That's my goal. So I know that, Stephanie, you actually, one of your team members actually door knock for you. How long did it take you to get a team member to do it for you? I've only been doing it for 2 years. When is it the right time to say, okay, team member, can you do it for me? And if you do that, what would I pay them to do that if I don't have it actually on them team, just hiring someone?
Got it. Well, I've really only not been door knocking for about 2.5 years myself. So that was 12 years of banging on those doors.
Wow.
So a long time.
Okay.
But, several years ago, I started having somebody in addition to me. So, they'd go up one side of the street and I'd go up the other.
Okay.
And then, then another and then another. The team members that I have who knock on doors are our buyer's agents. So they are not paid salary or anything to do that. And then we have a commission structure for the deals that they generate. So that's how that happens. But I don't think, the belly-to-belly contact is going to be how you become number one.
Yeah.
So I think that you have to have a certain market share before you can start to delegate that activity entirely.
Okay.
And honestly, if I could still be out there, I would.
Okay, thanks. John, for you, since you actually door knock, right? You physically door knock? So would you ever, at that point, delegate to a person?
No, I don't think I would. I like having a little bit of control, but I do two things. I do subsidize one of the agents that's on my team. I don't co-brand with her. She does a little over 10,000 properties a month. And then I do co-brand with another one that just started, as you know, about 3,000 homes, and the rest I do myself.
Yeah. On the 20, you said you you door knock 22,000?
No.
What do you mail out 22,000?
They're hand-delivered a little over 21,000, and a little over 2,000 are mailed to absentee owners.
Okay, so the 22, that's obviously more than just Southwood, so you've got other
Correct.
farms as well. Okay, thank you.
I have a question. My name is Jan. Hold on a second. I'll put my close to you. Thank you. Hi, my name is Jan. I work for the real estate group. And my question is for Gary. I'm just curious as to, are you willing to share how you generate a list of cash buyers?
Shares a key word there, Gary.
That's an interesting question, young lady. Let's see, how do I answer that? I would say that I have one particular investor that sought me out for 6 months, and he'd call me and say, we got some dough, and we see what you're doing, we're tracking you, and we want you to represent us. And I said, you're a dime a dozen, whatever. I get calls from investors every day, hey, we're looking for a flip, And so for the sixth time, this man was so persistent. I said, all right, I'll sit down with you face-to-face, come to my office, and let's roll. So I said, show me the deals you've closed, show me the money, the POF, and I'll consider it. And so, it's a program of attraction because he came to me. He's still one of my biggest clients to this day, and I don't even know how many deals we've done. But he also has a lot of money. And he loves the action. He's committed, and he's committed to me. And that's the rules of the game, is that if we're going to play and I'm going to spend the time, then there's a reciprocity, is that he commits to me and I commit to him. And so that's how I do it. Does that answer your question? I'm not going to... You're a bad little monkey.
Next question.
Hi, I'm Margaret Tan, Real Estate West, and this question is for Maggie. You said your client parties are successful, and so I was just curious, budget, where is it at? How many people you invite? Is it once a year? Is it a big party? Alcohol?
I do love my alcohol. It depends. I always have a pie party in Thanksgiving, and I actually host it at my house, which the very first time doing it, I was like, oh my gosh, the house isn't clean enough, oh my God. It was awful, and now it's been a tradition where everyone sort of expects it and then gets excited for it. There is food and alcohol, and the kids come. And then I'll typically maybe have another one during this time of the year. That kind of I've done a bowling one, so I've had the kids can come bowling, and of course I'll have beer because you pretty much you'll drink if you're my client because if you don't, we'll get you to drink by the end of it. So yeah, at first it's kind of a big deal, and you kind of think, oh my gosh, it's going to cost a lot of money, but honestly, not even sometimes I'm getting referrals from the people who aren't even coming. because it's just you're touching them. So it's amazing when we throw our client party on in Thanksgiving, how many referrals I'm getting from people who aren't even coming to the party because I just touched them and they realize, oh my God, duh, I need to refer Maggie out again. So does that answer your question? Okay.
Hi. Go ahead. Yeah, Nick Peters, Engel and Volkers. For the geographic farmers, I imagine you get a lot of conflicts in a way, right? You'll know the area better than anybody. So if you have a good deal, you could easily have multiple buyers who want that great off-market listing. How do you avoid the conflicts? How do you separate who gets what leads? Because you're going to have a lot of them the way you farm.
Off-market or on-market?
Off-market.
Off-market, well, you know, you're part of my group, so I get shared with you every other Monday, one. And then I never double pop anything. I have 2 buyer's agents. I let them do it. I will not double pop anything. But I will let them know that these agents do work for me, but I will not write the contract.
Yes, like John, I don't represent any buyers, so if we have a client interested in one of our listings and one of our agents will represent that person. I don't know, I don't want to say I'm the only person in the universe who does this, but I sell very, very, very few properties off market. As a geographic farmer, I feel I have a responsibility to get my client the highest and best price. And I know that the #1 way to do that is to put that house on the market. And so I might be vastly unpopular. And I have developers that I work with. Most of the time, I represent developers when they've bought something themselves, and then they want to turn around and sell it for the highest price. So they hire me to do that. I don't want to comment on the ethics of the off-market sale, but I would just encourage all of us to be very mindful of that, right? We don't want to cost little old lady $100,000 because we're trying to get into a developer's pocket. So I know that that's a thing. It's a thing that happens, and I'm not saying that you can't do it, but I'm saying that that's not how I do it, because as a geo farmer, it's a bad business model. So I sell almost everything on the market, but I don't have that issue, if that makes sense.
Gary, you use some geofarming. How do you handle the multiple people who want the deal you know about?
We get appraisals done, independent fee appraisals, and if that meets with the seller's expectations and they're okay with somebody, most of these are non-financeable. The investor will come in and say, I will pay that price that you got it appraised at if that's okay with you. And I will give them the option. If you want to go in the open market, let's go. Absolutely, and Steph's absolutely spot on. A lot of the deals I've done over the years, there's financial duress where they got to get it done like yesterday, and we have the ability to do that, or they don't want to deal with the conventional marketing situation with people coming in and out of their home. They're very private people, and I have experienced that many, many times, where they say, I want to keep it simple, want to keep it clean, and I will make them sign, which is also, I think, in the waiver for our board, it says, you're being advised that it should be on the open market, blah, 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 blah. So I always make it crystal clear so that, it's ethically and morally correct, and it's serving the seller's needs. That's first and foremost. The secondary part of that is that if the investor wants to play, then he'll step up and pay that price. If he doesn't want to, then adios amigo. So.
Great. Last question. And also for those people who haven't bought raffle tickets, this is last call to win an iPad.
Over here, raffle tickets.
Jesse Doherty has tickets.
My name's Kristen Hernandez from Remax Estate Properties, and my question's for Stephanie. You're the door-knocking queen, clearly, or now retired. But I just wanted to know, like, if you were when you were getting started and you didn't have an overwhelming market share in the neighborhood, and you said you were going out every day, 2 to 3 hours, so you would hit maybe the same door twice in a week?
No. So you have to have a big enough geographic area. I think a really good target is sometime between 3 and 4 times a year. I don't want to see the same person in the same week. They don't want to see me that often.
Right.
So the area that we door knock is about 9,000 homes.
Oh, that's big.
And yeah, so it's big. So it takes about 3 months to get through that. We just go east to west, east to west, east to west. And then, so that wasn't an issue. Now, when it was just me doing it, it was a slightly smaller area, and I'd get around about 3 times a year. And then the other thing that I layer in on my door knocking, so sometimes I might see somebody twice in a week, but it's pretty rare, but around every new listing, on the Thursday and Friday before we launch a new listing, our agents are focused around that listing, okay? So if you take one little tip away from today, that's the best, even if you're not a door knocker, spend 2 hours going around the block around your new listing and invite everybody to come to your open house. So that's the exception to the east to west rule. But I think about 3 times a year, I can hit about 50 doors per hour.
That's without talking.
I'm sorry?
That's without talking to them.
Yeah. On average, I'll talk to about 15 people per hour, and it doesn't matter what time of the day. I've done it all different times of day, and those averages are still bear out with my people. About 15 people per 50 doors, and it takes about an hour in like a basic, flat neighborhood.
Awesome.
Notepad. Love the notepad. Cheapest, best thing you can leave. And then a flyer, usually a notepad and a flyer. You too? Notepad? Notepad. Go notepad.
Okay, I think that's it. Thank you, panelists, so much for being here. And Eric, I guess you will pick the raffle for those people who bought raffle tickets. Hopefully the iPad is yours. Yeah, you can pick. You're a non-biased party.